Hey guys, welcome back to the 21st episode of Let's Play Space Engineers as a German engineer. I'm Daniel, I was born and raised in Germany, and I've been working in Silicon Valley as a software engineer for the last 10 years or so. Today, I want to do another episode specifically focusing on scripting and space engineers, and I want to walk you through how to set up a development environment that will significantly help you in being able to write scripts and get them done quickly and correctly, most importantly. There was a lot of lees, but we will also work on moving our inventory dashboard script that we've built in the last scripting episode into a new development environment. And then we'll make some changes to it for it to show our total storage as well as the storage that is currently still available. And then we'll also deploy it to the iSpace. And since we're going to have the script in the development environment and going to import it from there, we only have to change it in a single location, can then very easily deploy it to all our different programmable blocks that we want to run it on. So in this case, in our old base or the main base and in our iSpace. So let's get right to it. So for the first step, I want to guide you through how to set up the actual development environment so that we have a proper code editor as well as some autocompletion and other tools that we didn't have in the last episode. I mentioned that this is a little bit more work, and it is a little bit more work, but if we're going to work more on scripts and we're going to be building scripts and tinkering with them, it's definitely worth it. So let's get to it. So what I've opened here is a little guide and some helpful files on how to set up your development environment for space engineers specifically. In this step-by-step guide, we are going to be installing Git for Windows, which is like a source control management system. Don't really have to understand what that means, but it will help us, get the templates for our scripts onto our computer, as well as it provides a couple of tools that these templates then use in kind of like helping automate some processes and some steps. Then we need to install the .NET SDK, which is from Microsoft provided software development kit. That's what SDK stands for the .NET platform, which is what Space Engineers is built upon, and the Space Engineers scripting engine uses. And lastly, we are going to install VS Code with the C# extensions. VS Code is a development environment by Microsoft that supports a lot of different platforms and programming languages, and it's like very extensible and has like a very advanced plugin system. It's probably the most commonly used development environment these days, and it's definitely very well suited for what we want to do here. And that is also what this guide here is proposing for us to use. I will put a link to this guide here in the description of the video so that you can very easily find it and follow along as well. I will be walking you guys through this guide, so please go ahead and click on the link in the description to open it, and then you can pause the video or even rewind whenever you need to catch up with something. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to install these 3 software packages that I just talked about. We're going to install Git, we're going to install the .NET SDK, and we're going to install VS Code. And it should be as easy as just clicking on all 3 of these links here. So we'll open the Git page first. What we want to install, so I have 64-bit Windows. I'm going to install the 64-bit Git for Windows. If you're unsure if you have 64-bit or 32-bit, you can always opt for the 32-bit. That should work regardless of if you are using 32-bit or 64-bit Windows. If you have a reasonably modern computer, you probably are using 64-bit Windows though. The .NET framework, we click on download over here, and then we need the .NET 6.0 version. So let's just click on the link and save. And then lastly, we need to install Visual Studio Code. So we're just going to download that for Windows as well. And then we're going to save. So we'll wait until these downloads are done, and then we're going to install all 3 of these software packages onto our system. I'm going to start with Git. We're just going to click here. Wherever you've installed it. You can also just go in wherever you've installed it and double click the executable. Yes, we want this app to make changes to our system. So we're just going to click on next here. Select the path where we install it. That's fine for me. Yes, this already exists because I had already installed it and removed it so I could show you guys how to do it step by step. You can just leave these default settings if you want. I will actually make some changes. I don't want the Windows Explorer integrations, and I don't want these file associations. I'll leave the large file support in here, and I will also remove this. So you can look at these like individually if you want and make the decision for yourself, but the default definitely works. If you want to make changes to the default, please go ahead. Yep, we'll keep Vim as the default editor. We will change our default branch name to main. That's going to happen in a few versions of Git anyway. We want to be able to run Git from the command line, but most importantly from third-party software, so we're going to leave this setting here. You can leave this on use bundled OpenSSH. I will actually change this to using plink. I have PuTTY installed, and I have all my SSH keys in there, so that is what I'm going to be using. And I will also choose to use the native Windows Secure Channel library. And this default here setting should be fine as well. Use Windows style on checkout and commit using Unix style line endings. I will also choose to use Windows default console window here. I will choose rebase. I won't explain in detail what these changes do that I'm making, so feel free to leave it on default. So we'll wait until this is installed. Okay, we don't need to view the release notes. We're just done, finished. Let's move on to the .NET SDK. Okay, and we'll just click on install here. Yes. Okay, installation was successful. Close. And lastly, we're going to install VS Code. I accept the agreement. Choose whatever installation path you want to have. Yeah. Yeah. We're just going to leave these as is. And click install. And we will want to launch Visual Studio now anyway, so that's the perfect setting. Okay, so VS Code is started. What we want to do next is, as the guy instructs us, we want to install the C# extensions. Note that we do not need the built-in debug assets because we are not actually going to build the software or these scripts in VS Code. We're going to import them into Space Engineers and let Space Engineers deal with that stuff. So back to VS Code. The way to install new extensions is you can either click on these blocks over here, or you can hit the shortcut Control-Shift-X, or I think there's also a view up here. Yeah, view extensions to take you there. This list was probably empty for you or almost empty for you. That is because I have a bunch of extensions already installed from a previous installation. So don't worry about that too much. But what we want to install is the C# extension. So we'll tap in C#, and we see here the very first one, C# for Visual Studio Code, powered by OmniSharp. This is exactly what we want. We'll click on that, and we'll click the little install button down here. And now it's installing. And there we go. It's installed. So the next step is we're going to click on this little graph icon here. That is our source control tab. What we want to do here is we want to clone a repository. Let's click on clone repository. And so now we're going to go back to this guide. And this guide is actually itself a source code repository. So we just need to get the URL for it. We're going to click here on code. And this HTTPS tab should be selected already. We're just going to copy this URL down here. We'll click this button here to copy it. And now we're going to go back to Visual Studio Code. And we're going to paste this URL up here. I don't really want to sign in. Oh, it shouldn't be necessary. Okay, I click. It looks like it didn't sign in after I click cancel. I just had to do the steps again. Now we need to select a destination where we want to clone this into. You just go ahead and select whatever destination fits your needs. I have a network share down here that I want to put this into. Boldly unbuffed. I'm going to create a new folder here. Space Engineer Scripts. And that's going to be my destination. Click the select destination button, and then we'll just wait until this is done. Would you like to open the cloned repository? Yes, we would like to do this. And here we go. Now here on the left, you can see these files. Here, there's a readme.md, spaceengineers.csproj, yada, yada, yada. And if we go back here to our guide, we can see that these are the same files that are listed up here. So we created a local copy of this code repository now, and have opened it in VS Code. So VS Code now asks us down here, required assets to build and debug are missing from Space Engineers, add them. As I mentioned earlier, and as it says here in this description, this is not really required, so we'll just say don't ask again. As you can see, the script folder and the scripts that are in here, they're like red. And if you open them, you see like all these errors in the code. And that's just because we need to configure our project file in this repository to point at the right directory, at our Space Engineers installation. So we're going to go to the csproj file down here, and we'll open this. And you can see here, this is the Space Engineers directory. And if you are using the default installation path for Steam and Space Engineers, then this might not actually happen for you, and everything is fine. Because this here is the default path that Steam will choose to install Space Engineers. I have mine installed somewhere else, so I need to update this and change this for all of this here to work. So let me quickly do this. I'm just going to open up my Windows Explorer, and I'm going to go to my RAID setup here, Games, Steam, Steam Apps, Common. It's going to copy this path, and then come on, what's going on here? There we go. And this should fix this now. So with this change now, it fixed all these errors. The reason why it showed errors is to give you a quick kind of just these using vrage math, vrage game, yada yada. These are the Space Engineer specific libraries, and this project file points at where the editor, the development environment, can find those libraries so that it gets information about like what their capabilities are, what the different classes are, methods and functions and so forth. And if they are pointing at the wrong place, then the editor can't make anything off of this. And so it'll flag it as an error. But now that we have pointed them at the right directory, everything here is working well. Just for explanation, in this directory, in this project, there are a couple of scripts created by the author of this guide. You can delete these 3 scripts if you have no interest in them. The only thing that you cannot delete, and this is actually important information, is the template. This is going to be used for creating your own scripts as a default template, basically. So make sure to not delete this, even if you want to delete the other scripts. So now we have set up our development environment, and we should be able to create our own custom scripts now in this dev environment and get like all the goodness of a full development environment, like autocompletion and error correction and syntax type checking and stuff like that. This project also comes with 2 kind of development environment tasks built in. So if you hold Control, Alt, and T to run tasks, you see there's 2 tasks in here. There's create Space Engineer script and export Space Engineer script. So if you click the create in Space Engineer script, it will automatically create a new script entry here based on the template that is in here. And then the export Space Engineer script will automatically take the script that we have written in this development environment and put it in a place where space engineers will be able to find it. So let's see if we can actually get this to work. Let's try our first little script built in the development environment. For that, we are again going to do Control-Alt-T to run a task. You can also click on Terminal up here and then run task. It'll do the same thing. And then we're going to run the create space engineer script task. It'll ask us for a script name. We're going to call it Hello World because that's what we're going to build again, as little Hello World script. Hit enter. And so something didn't work. And I'm not sure if this is specific to my environment in some capacity, but there's an error here that says set editor not found in c.usr bin set.exe. So I've actually debugged this before, and I filed a bug with the author of this guide that describes like also how to fix it. And by the time that you get to pull this code repository and go through this guide, this error might have been fixed, or it might not apply to your specific environment. But if you run into this error here, right, if you try to create a new script and it says set editor not found in some weird path, here's how you can fix it for you locally. If you're comfortable with using Git, you can just cherry pick this commit here onto your working directory. Or alternatively, we're just going to go, I'm going to show you how to manually fix this. You go to utils, you go to config.bat. This is the file that you want to open. We need to add a little bit right in this line here. What we want to add here is like use back q delim equals, like this. And make sure that when you copy this, that you do it exactly like I type it. Otherwise, it might not work. And then we need to replace these regular single quotes with backticks. And if you're not familiar where the backtick is, it's the button right and left of the one, right? That will create a backtick. And then with these changes, let me double check quickly. Yeah, here's a mistake. It's use back q delims. Make sure to put a space between use back q and delims. Make sure to put it in quotation marks. Make sure to put an equal sign at the end of it. Make sure to replace the single quotes with backticks here. And then we'll save. And with this saved, we should be able now to run our task successfully. So we're going to create Space Engineer script. We'll call it Hello World. There we go. It was created. So now we have a new script up here called Hello World. Let's open it. There's a scripts.cs file in here, which is the template for our script. As you can see, this is a little bit more code than what we had in our last tutorial, where we were programming it inside of Space Engineers. But the part that you would see in the Space Engineers editor, you can find in here as well, which is this area in here. There's like the public program, the public void save, the public void main. These parts were the same ones that we had in our script when we were using the Space Engineers editor. And that's like the part that is relevant. The other things are just to tell the development environment basically like what it's dealing with without, and we can basically ignore these parts. One thing I already noticed, when we named our script, we put a white space in the name. You should not do that. And I'm actually going to delete this here again and recreate. Let me actually show you why you shouldn't do this first. I will delete this and recreate it without a white space. But up here you can see namespace, hello world. There's a white space here, and this is not possible. Like you cannot have white spaces in in names that are used within a programming language typically. And so make sure that when you create the script, when you give it a name, that you don't actually use any white space. So we're just going to go ahead and just again, Control-Alt-T to run a task, create Space Engineer script, hello world. We're just going to remove the white space from the name. And there you go, was created. And now it used the name without the white space in all the different locations where it uses the name, and we don't have that problem anymore. So now, since we have this hello world script, we just need to actually write a little program that does prints a hello world message. So all we need to do is echo hello world. And as you can already see, like before we had the semicolon here, like it would tell us, hey, little red squiggly line on there, there's a mistake, you're missing your semicolon here. So we're going to save this. Where this echo hello world will show up is in the bottom right corner of the programmable block when we run the script. I'll show you that in a second. So now we have like our small hello world program that we will be able to use to verify everything is working as we expect it to. So the last thing that we need to do to actually be able to use it in Space Engineers, we need to deploy it. Again, we Control-Alt-T to run a task, and we hit Export Space Engineer script. And click this. And the development environment will do a couple of things, and it prints down there a message that says has been exported. Now we should be able to find it in Space Engineers. So we're going to go back to Space Engineers. We realize that we're dying. That was really close. Okay. So let's quickly get a programmable block. Okay, and then in here, we are going to select script. You click on edit. And you see the pre-filled script in here, which is the default for when you create a new programmable block. But now we click on browse scripts. And we can see here is our little hello world script. This thumbnail, by the way, that it shows here is, if we go back into the dev environment, we can see that under our hello world folder, there is a thumb.png, which is exactly this thumbnail, this image. And under the template folder, we see that there is a thumb.png as well, which is the same one. So like when we created the new script, the task that created the folder and the script file and so forth copied this thumb.png file into our script folder. So if we want to make sure that we have our own custom thumbnail every time we're creating a script, what we just got to do is we take this thumb.png, we make some changes to it and save it into the template folder. And I've already done this, so let me just grab quickly my updated thumbnail here and drop that in here. And then I'm going to rename this one. I want to rename it just in case we want to get it back. Thumb.png, and we're going to delete this one here in the Hello World folder. And then just copy the new one into the Hello World folder. And now, oh, actually before we do, we need to re-export it again. So Control-Alt-T. And then export Space Engineer script. Okay. And now OK. Edit. Browse scripts. No, that is let's delete it. I think it might have this thumbnail cached somewhere, so we're gonna delete it.
1 hour later.
Okay. The way to fix it was I had to completely restart the game. Also appears like the aspect ratio is a little bit off, but that's fine. So now we can hit copy to editor, and we see we have our echo hello world in here. We can hit the check code button again, just like we did before, to make sure the code compiles. We click OK, and then we click run. and hello world shows up here. So we've successfully imported our first development environment script into Space Engineers. Congratulations. So what I want to do next is I want to take the inventory dashboard script that we already have at our old base and turn it into a development environment script. So let's do this by quickly heading back to the old base and grabbing the script from there. Okay, we're at the old base. We're gonna quickly go in here on edit, and then we're gonna copy all of this code. I'm gonna do this by hitting Control A, select it all, and then Control C to copy it. I'm gonna go back into the development environment here, and we're gonna press Control Alt T to run a new task, and we're gonna select Create New Script, and then we'll call it Inventory Dashboard, and that's gonna create a new script for us here. Here we go, inventory dashboard. We're going to open the scripts.cs file. We're going to find these regions, region inventory dashboard and end region inventory dashboard. We're going to delete all the code in between there. And now we are going to paste the code that we have just copied in here. And there's going to be one problem, that is the indentation here of this code is not correct. What that means is the code that we just pasted will start on the column 0 when it should start up here. So we're gonna select all this code we've just pasted, and we're gonna just hit tab once. And that will indent the code by one level, exactly like we need it. As you can see, our script file is shown red up here now, and you can see there's these squiggly lines under some of our statements. This means the development environment is saying we have an error in our code. We know there's technically no error because this works when we are running it in the game, but let's see what it says. So we're going to just hover over this error, and it says, the type or namespace name list could not be found. Are you missing a using directive or an assembly reference? So the lists that we use here, they are part of the .NET SDK of the standard libraries for C#. So let's see what the development environment says here. It offers us a quick fix. So let's look at these quick fixes. Click on the quick fix, or we could do Control and dot as well. Using system collections generic. So this seems to be right. Basically what this means, it's going to add a using directive at the top of the file up here somewhere, where we are using system collections generic, which is the namespace that includes these lists. And so we click that, we added that up here, and you can see the squiggly lines are gone. Our file is green again. Everything is great. We can save this, and we can just go ahead and export that again. So Control Alt T, export, has been exported. Now we're going to go back into our Space Engineer script. We're going to click on Edit, Browse Scripts, and now we have our inventory dashboard here. Copy to editor. There you go. It looks a little bit different. It has this region inventory dashboard up here, but that's fine. Although outside of that, it is the exact same script. So let's hit check code. There we go. Successful. And is it still working? It looks good. So now what we can do, we can just hop back into the other base. Let me quickly return to the other base. We're back at the other base, and we should be able to just grab an LCD screen. Make sure that it's rotated correctly. There we go. The contents of script. Actually, no, it's the content of text and images. And we do want the monospace font. And then we'll give it a name. Inventory dashboard. And then we'll edit the script here. Go to browse scripts. Select the inventory dashboard, copy to editor. And the console name is inventory dashboard, which is exactly what we have just chosen for the name of the display. If you chose a different name for the display, you would have to edit this here. Now, there we go. Nice. It shows us exactly all the inventory items that we have here. I might replace this with a non-transparent display. This is a little bit irritating here on top of the block. Let me quickly change the dashboard to a non-transparent one so it doesn't look as awkward. There we go. That's much better. I can actually read it now. Cool. Let's quickly update our engineering list. So we have set up our development environment. We've moved our inventory dashboard to the new dev environment. And we've installed an inventory dashboard at the iSpace. Expand inventory dashboard to show total and use percentage. So for that, we're going to head back in the development environment to figure out how we want to do this. Okay, here's our inventory dashboard script in our dev environment. There's a couple things that we need to do kind of to achieve what we are trying to do here. So we are already iterating over all the different containers that we have within the base, within the grid. And this happens here, right? Loop over all entities, and then we're checking if it has an inventory. If it doesn't have an inventory, we'll skip to the next block. If it has an inventory, we actually check what types of what item types it has, and if the item type is not one that we want to display on a dashboard, we skip over this. But at this point, we can also have a global accumulator and just count how many items we have in this specific inventory, as well as how many items we can store in it. And when I say how many items, I don't mean the actual number of items, but what we really mean is the volume of these items. In addition to accumulating all the volume of all the different items in these inventories, we also need to determine how much space the inventory container itself can provide, like what its capacity is. What its capacity is in terms of volume. So what we need to figure out is how do we query the container for how much capacity it has, and how do we query the item for how much volume the item takes up. So what we can do is now, since we have a dev environment, we can actually look at these types here. So in this specific game, my inventory item is a type. We can hold control on our keyboard, and you see that this turned into a link kind of pointer here. If we click on this, it actually takes us to the definition of this type. With that, we can see that it has like an amount, and it has a type, it has some different functions and operators. But what it doesn't seem to have is how much volume it takes up. So what might be the case is that the volume is defined by the density of the item type, right? So if we, so the volume information might be on this type variable here, member variable. So let's check out my item type. Has a type ID, which is a string, and a subtype ID, which we're already using. Like if we go back to our inventory dashboard, right? This is what we're using for the item identifier, right? The type ID and a subtype ID. If we look at the other operators and whatnot, however, I don't see anything that could tell us what the volume of this item is. So it is possible that we need to use the type ID and the subtype ID to map to a specific volume, but I'm not sure. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to Google for this and see if I can find something about it. Space Engineers, script, item volume. Let's see if that finds something. Yeah, the first hit already looks good. Okay, so this seems like to basically do a big mapping from an inventory item to the specific volume. I'm a little bit concerned that this might not be correct. Let's see what's here. Okay, so what it seems like is each inventory has a current mass. Wait, that's actually mass. I don't want mass. I want volume. Let's look at my inventory system though. Here, max volume and current volume. I mean that's easy. Okay, perfect. So we can just go ahead and say var total volume equals 0 and var used volume equals 0. Okay, right now there are squiggly lines here, probably because we're not using these anywhere. Yeah, it's a standard value that's never used. That's okay. So now, if it doesn't have an inventory, we don't need to store it. Let's do let's capture the inventory here. Entity dot get inventory 0, and then we'll replace this here. Inventory get items. That way we can very easily just say total volume plus equals, which means you add it to the current volume. Inventory dot current volume. No, wait. Current volume is the used. Yeah. Is. So we need max volume. And then used volume plus equals inventory dot current volume, not mass volume. So right now this is giving me an error here. Yeah, so these numbers here should need to be my fixed points because the max volume and current volume are my fixed points. Fixed point. I actually wonder if it allows me as a quick fix. No. Oops. Come on. Okay. Oh, there's some typos here. Used volume. And now when we're drawing the board down here, the question is, where do we want this? Maybe even above this list, right? Oops. So this loop here draws the actual list, and this here writes the heading row. So we actually want it even before the heading row. Let's just copy this console write.
One eternity later.
Export. Load. There you go. That is much better. Awesome. And so the cool thing about this now is if we can very easily just reload this script at the other base to get this change active on the other base as well. That makes it super easy when you want to reuse a script somewhere else. Like you just have to kind of like go in here, click on edit, and go on browse scripts, and then you just pick your script from this list here, and it will pull the most recent version of the script. Awesome. So expand inventory dashboard to show total and use percent. I guess the total percent didn't really make sense, but the use percent is definitely really useful. I think one last thing that I promised that we would do in this episode, and I said we would do it right at the beginning of the episode, but I kind of skipped over it because I think the script part, people that might be interested in learning more about the scripts might not be interested in this. So if that's the case for you, feel free to skip this section. But, oh, it's off. I see. We're overflowing. Interesting. I need to fix this because these the sorter blocks, as we have determined in the last episode, are not really behaving the way that we want them to, and that's fine mostly. But I want this to work correctly. Where's the? Do I have any access ports to this anymore? I don't think I do, because I removed this this one inventory here. Yeah, I don't think I can actually look at what's in the refinery. Let's quickly see. I wanna make sure that the refinery. Yeah, no, it's not. Huh, interesting. So it doesn't have any stone. But what is looping up here? It's gravel. It's gravel, not stone. I don't want gravel to be able to come in here. That's a bug. Ore and ingots. I see. Does gravel count as ingots? It might. That's fine. Once I fix this here, I don't think this would happen again. I think it might not happen again. We'll see. So the fix that I will do here is quite simple. I will just remove these here again. And instead we'll have this come off of this here.
Fuel critical.
Like this. And then simply have the ejector at the end of this. The reason that this will work is that the sorter at the very front of this setup here will pull all the gravel and push into these containers until they're full. When these containers are full, it'll overflow into this ejector, and this ejector will just dump it out. And that way we will always have the amount of gravel that we want to store without having these different sorters kind of conflict with each other. So let's double check this. Oh, these are silicon wafers. Okay, so it's not gravel. Not 100% sure why they ended up there instead of... Oh, did they end up there because this prefers to push up? Right? We determined that the... Yeah. So when the refinery pushes out material, it will prefer to push it out up here at this junction. Which is not relevant for the base over here because we don't ever want the ice to exit anywhere else anyway. That's fine. I think the change that I need to do is simply not allow ores. There was a mistake here. Not ores. Ingots. To allow ingots into this. The idea was like if we're overflowing ingots, we also want this to stop. But if we're overflowing ingots, then we will overflow on stone because the refineries will stop producing these ingots. And so this here will work like this as well. And then we need to this guy here needs to eject, throw out, but not pull in. Alright, so these here should remain full. Yeah. Yeah. And then all the gravel that is kind of stored up anywhere. Yeah. It's being ejected out here. And yeah, perfect. Bye, gravel. Actually, I think I should put this one cargo container back here. It's over here still cycling. Oh no, it's cycling again. It definitely ran a little bit, but it stopped again. Oh, and these are full. Huh. Hydrogen tank. Yeah, 100%. So if we want the mine to continue running, we will need to build more hydrogen tanks. But that's fine for now. I'm not going to do this right now. Let's move these things over. Boom. What I am going to do right now is I'm going to say thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. Like, really do. Like, this really helps a lot with distribution and the channel and whatnot. So, thumbs up here. Like, thumbs. And then click the button. Yeah. Yeah. And if you want to see more like this, please make sure to subscribe. I upload Space Engineers videos twice a week. And I will be uploading more of these scripting videos. I have another idea for what I want to do already. Like, there's more stuff in the works. But don't be afraid. I'm going to do my non-scripting Space Engineers videos. I will continue doing those as well. So if you like scripting, check out the scripting videos. If you don't like scripting, no problem. There's going to be a lot of other stuff as well. So make sure to subscribe. And yeah, see you guys next time. Bye.